here is the how to watercolor demo. I'm going to show you a few different techniques that if you can master these, you can pretty much do anything in watercolor. And so my advice would be to you is if you have some watercolor paper and your watercolor brushes at home, follow along. Probably one of the best watercolor brushes to use is one of these flat ones, which all of you have in your kits. If it has a round tip like this, it's not going to be very good except for like detailing. So get rid of this old nasty one that came with your kit, or hold on to it, whatever you want to do, and pull out this one that came with your kit. So first I'm going to show you guys is called a flat wash, and it's a good way to get just a broad amount of color onto a page, like for like a sky, or if you're filling something in, and you want it to look nice and even and not all strokey and different colors and stuff. So you want to get some water on your brush and pick a color, and I'm just going to go with orange because why not? So you get your orange wet, or whatever color you want to do, and then most people just go directly from here to here, but what you actually want to do is you want to get as much as you can over into your palette. So I'm going to start just scooping up this color right here and then adding more water, because when you're doing a flat wash, you want all of it to be there ready to go, because if it's not, then you are going to run out of water and it's going to dry and it's going to look all uneven and gross. And so just make sure you have a lot of essentially watercolor already mixed and ready to go. I'm kind of just soaking it up with my brush and scooping it over here. And the first trick about watercolor is if you want the color to be lighter, you add more water. If you want it to be darker, you use less water, or you layer it, which I will show you in a second. But anyway, so I feel like I've got a lot of paint ready to go over here, so on and so forth. All right, so the first trick is you want to actually tilt your paper just a little bit, because you want gravity on your side. So you're going to tilt it just a little bit, and then you're going to use your brush, flat brush, and as you drag it across, a bead will appear, and you want to grab that bead with the top tip of your brush and keep pulling it down. So, and then you can just come over here and keep grabbing paint from the palette as you go. So I'm going to start right here. All right, and you see there's like that little bead of water right there. I'm going to grab a little more paint here, and then I'm just going to line up with that bead and drag it down here. Grab some more, line it up, drag it down. Line it up, drag it down. And then if you have a little bit extra at the bottom and you're done, you can take this scrap brush that you didn't want, or just a dry brush, or even a paper towel, and just kind of, oops. Well, you want to loosen this first because they come together glued. Anyways, and you can just kind of just gently dab up that little bit of extra. And that is supposed to give you a pretty even look. Now, if you're looking at this, you can see there's still some streaking and there's some dark patches and some light patches. Do not touch it after you've painted it. That's one of the biggest things. If you want something to have an even and consistent look, if you touch it after you've put the color down, it will make it even more splotchy and even worse. The trick is to wait for it to dry first. So I'm not going to even mess with this as it dries. Hopefully it will even out, and if it doesn't, I can go over with another coat. So it's no big deal. So that is the first one, and that is what we call a flat wash. Now the next one I'm going to show you guys is a layered wash. But we can't do a layered wash until that one is dry. So I'm actually going to just go ahead and lay down another layered wash really quick, or another flat wash. This is a good foundation for a lot of the other things I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to do another one just like that, using the same principle. Kind of tilting my paper a little bit. I'll dab up that little extra bead at the bottom. So the only time you want to touch it after you paint it is just to dab up whatever little extra you've got. Okay. So while I'm waiting for this one to dry to show you a layered wash, I will show you a gradient wash. Now, a gradient wash means that you just simply move from dark to light, or from dark to a different, or from one color to another color. Kind of think like a sunset or something like that. It's called a gradient. in the art world. So let me get some more color here because I'm running out. To do a gradient wash, as I was saying before, as you add more water, it gets lighter. So that's how you do a gradient wash, is you start with as little water as possible, and you do in the same thing where you're dragging it across, but then as you go, you add more water and less paint. Okay, so to do that, you want to have it on a nice little tilt. And I'm going to get my first bit, and drag that across all nice like, and then I'm going to get a little bit of water out of my cup here and add that. And it's going to start getting a little bit runny. That's okay. Add a tiny bit more water and a bit more. If it starts getting too watery, you can always soak it up with another brush like that, or a paper towel or something, and see how it goes from light to dark. If you want to, at this point, while it's still wet, you can come back and add a little bit more if you want, if you feel like it's not dark enough at top. And then slowly add water to fade it out. See, it's kind of bunching up over here, so I'm going to soak that up with my dry brush. And that is how you do a really nice graded wash. So if you want it to go from dark to light. I'm going to move my light here, so, oh, looks like I can't really change that. Well, it's wet, so we're waiting for that to dry. This one is almost dry, and as you can see, it kind of evened out, the top one, but it's still a little bit liney, so I can go back in and fix that if I want to. And the really only way to avoid it getting liney like that is just to be extra careful when you are pulling it across and grabbing that bead. So I'll go ahead and label this. This is the gradient wash. Don't ask me why they call it a wash, but that's what they do. All right, flat wash, gradient wash, and this one is going to be the layered wash. So once that dries, we can go ahead and layer on it, but that's the trick. You have to wait for it to be totally dry. You can't even have it like slightly damp, otherwise it won't work. So we're gonna wait for that layered wash to still dry, and we will move on to show you the next thing. All right, the next thing I wanna show you is a little trick that we call wet on wet, and it is probably one of my favorites, and it creates a more blurry effect. So if you want something that's kind of blurry or soft and fuzzy, this is how you do it. So the first thing you're gonna do is actually get some of your water on your brush, just plain water, no paint at all, and paint the area that you wanna do the wet on wet wash with. And the cleaner the water, the better. I've got a little bit of orange in mine, but see, I've got the area wet. And then you can start painting in color. See how it's kind of soft and gentle, it's kind of flowing into the water. Or you can add different colors and kind of make it splotchy. So maybe I want to add some red. And the cool thing is, and I love this when I was a kid, is that it kind of creates a firework effect when you just drop one. And see how it starts to expand. It's really cool. Or you can swirl it or whatever, and it's just kind of expanding like that. It's pretty cool. Hey, it almost kind of looks like a dragon. Anyways, so that's how you create a really soft effect, and that's a really good way too to like blend something together. So maybe I wanted to lay a little bit of orange down, and I'm just going to be really sloppy about it. And then I wanted to blend it together with some red, so I have some red, but I need a point where they can come together. So I will get my water, get my brush as clean as possible, get some water, lay down a wet area in between, and add a little bit of orange, and then add a little bit of red. And then kind of blend it together in that wet area. Just kind of blend it into each one. Maybe I need a little more orange, so maybe I'll pull in a little more orange. So that's how you get like a really cool, nice, smooth and blurry movement between two different colors. So both of these are called, let me flip it sideways, wet on wet, so meaning wet paint on wet paper. So there you go. And the other cool thing about this one, especially like I showed you up top, is it can work really well if you want to do like a lake and you want to show the reflection of like maybe trees kind of squiggling into the lake reflection and in the water and stuff. And so sometimes you can do that. You can do like a little blue, and then you can just kind of draw little lines of like green, and they'll kind of fade and blur, and it looks really cool. And I think, yeah, my other, well, see, it wasn't totally dry and I touched it and it's starting to take it away. You see that? That's why you don't touch it. But we'll just leave that there for the sake of you knowing that. And I will show you how a layered wash works. So if you want something to be darker and it wasn't dark enough the first time, you can grab some more paint and you can just go over top of it. And you see I'm kind of going back and forth because that's just a bad habit of mine. You can go over top of that, and if that wasn't dark enough for you, you can wait for that to dry and do another layer. Yeah, and you can even, I'll show you up on this flat wash here, like if you take like this more cruddy round brush is what they call these, and you know, you can grab some of your paint and you can paint a little shape and it looks darker. So that's how you do layered wash. So if you want to make something darker than it is, you add more to it. Now I'm going to show you another trick with a layered wash. So I'm going to get this one started. Again, most washes start with a basic flat wash, and then you're usually waiting for it to dry and then adding on. So I'm going to go ahead and make this flat wash. So I'm going to tilt my paper a little bit. I'll mop up that little extra at the bottom. So I'll tell you right now that this one will be what we call layering. So not a layered wash, but layering. And I guess you can like put in parentheses color. So while that dries, we'll just wait a minute. So yeah, anyways, you'll wait for that to dry completely. Now, at this point, it's kind of more fun and more experimental. I mean, these are like some basic things you want to know, but now you can start playing around. So like another thing that can be fun is grabbing some paint and running your finger along it away from you, so it flicks towards the paper. And that's how you can like make splatters. And you can do something really cool too, where if you grab an extra piece of paper, you can cut it off and splatter it. So I'm going to grab one piece of paper here. Maybe I did those red splatters right there. Let me scoot it over so you can see it. And maybe I want to do some different splatters going like, but I want it to be a very harsh line where they are. So maybe I want to do some, what do you think? How about we do some green splatters? So let me get some green here. And I hold my paper down. And then if you pull the paper away, you can see there's a very straight line where that green cut off. So that can be kind of fun if you want to go for splattered effect. And this is really great for making pebbles or just making it look interesting or different. So let me label this one splatters. Ooh, and this layering for color is almost dry, but we're going to keep waiting another second. I'll show you one more while we're waiting for that layering to dry. All right, this one can be really cool too. So if you've ever wanted to get that paint drip effect, what you want to do is kind of get a lot of paint just onto your brush. Just like a lot of it. Just like soak up everything you can. Just get that brush super, super wet. And then leave like a dot. Just get like that puddle, it almost looks like a pool of blood, it's a little morbid. And you can tilt it and blow. And you can blow in different directions. And you get that kind of cool look. And so you get like that kind of drip or splatter look, which I've seen used to make some pretty cool stuff before. Like flowers and stuff. It just kind of, or roots for trees. It's really neat. It adds a more kind of expressive touch. So I'll write that there as drip. Okay, I think our color layering is just about dry. Yep. All right, so this is a really cool way to layer color. It's probably one of my favorite ways. Instead of like saying, oh, I want to make, you know, well, I already made orange here, but like I want to make a red orange, so I'm just gonna, instead of saying, oh, I'm gonna mix it here, you know, make that there, you know, instead, this makes it really cool to be able to put the first layer of the color down and then take the second layer, kind of water it down a bit. So I'm watering down this red because I want a really nice orange red. Take your watered down version and layer it over top. And then it becomes kind of see-through. That's the really cool thing about watercolor is with the water, it almost becomes see-through like glass. Maybe I'll get some more red in here. Let me blotch up that extra right there. And right here. See, so when, as this dries, you can see that you can still see this orange square we waited to dry underneath, but now it's more red. And or you could go back over and do more yellow over it. Or maybe you want your orange to be more yellow. So you do the same thing. You grab some yellow, bring it over here. So you have some yellow to work with. Now yellow tends to be a little lighter of a color, so I usually don't add a lot of water to it if I want it to look dark. So go ahead and I'm like, oh, I want to make this more yellow. So I layer yellow over top of it. You can see it's made that more of a warm sort of yellow orange there. So that's how you do the layering for the color washes. So we've done flat wash, layered wash, gradient. Ooh, maybe you can add another layer to that layered wash I can show you. So if you want to make this even darker, you can add another one. So the more you add, the darker it'll get. Just like that. Anyway, so we've got the wet on wet, layering, gradient wash, layered wash, and flat wash. We've also got these cool ones like splatter and drip. There's a couple more things you can do. I will get the supplies for them later and show you in class because it's really cool. But you can actually add salt to a wet watercolor and that'll do some really cool stuff, as well as like plastic wrap or rubbing alcohol can do some really cool stuff. But believe it or not, basically, like even just doing like these, knowing how to do these things and learning how to use them together well can make amazing watercolors, and you'll really get a control for it, or a handle on it is what I meant to say. So yeah, that being said, just remember what we'll be doing in class is creating this. I will give you a piece of paper and you'll go through and do these. So make sure you understand how each of these work. You can come back and watch this video if you want to. And there you go. So there's today's lesson, and happy watercoloring. A really fun little brush etiquette, okay? Imagine that your brush, just put on your imagination caps for a minute, imagine that your brush is a person. And this is its hair, and there's his head, and that's the rest of his body, right? What happens when you leave someone face down in the water and they can't get out? You're drowning your brush. So I want you guys to remember to never, ever, 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 ever drown your brushes, because brushes have feelings too. But aside from the feelings thing, you know, if you have the need to leave your brush in there, just don't. It'll ruin it. You can like rest it on top, you can rest it on the table, you could even stick it in like leg first, but never, ever, ever just leave the bristles in. The reason why is because inside of this metal piece, it's not just the metal that's holding these bristles in, there's actually glue in there. And the longer you leave it in the water, the glue will actually loosen and you'll start to lose bristles. And these are nice brushes I got for you guys. You don't want to waste these. Also, if you leave it in the water too long and if it's like resting on the bottom, it's going to push it. See like how it's kind of going sideways? And you'll permanently have a brush that's pushed sideways. And that's really hard to fix. So if you want to take good care of your brushes, make sure that you don't leave it in the water after you wash it. Take it out or leave it in some other position, but never, ever, ever drown your brush. Never drown your bristles, okay? Brushes have feelings too. Another thing is if you want to take really good care of your brushes, always wash them afterwards. Even if like you just use watercolor and you're like, well, I've already used tons of water. Still go over to the sink, get a little bit of soap in your hands and run some soap through it and some warm water. Take really good care of these. These are going to be your best friends if you take good care of them. So I just want you guys to remember that. A little bit of brush etiquette. It's a big deal. Big deal for being a good watercolor artist or paint artist in general. So remember that. Brushes have feelings too.